The Washington Football Maniacs.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another video here on the Washington Football Maniacs. Hey, if you want to really support this channel, you can do so by simply subscribing to the Washington Football Maniacs. And when you do, make sure you turn on notifications so you will be notified for all videos being released here on the Maniacs. And with that said, let's get into this. So Terry McLaurin, folks, he is back. He is back. He's been activated and he's ready to go. Well, not quite. The Washington Commanders activated him from the PUP list just yesterday, and McLaurin should be returning to practice in some form or fashion. Now, we didn't see him out in the field yesterday, but a lot of times what happens when someone is, coming off of a physically unable to perform list, they're not just automatically thrown right back onto the field and practicing full speed with everybody else. A lot of times there's more rehab and things like that. They may work on the sidelines a little bit, but you kind of ease them back into eventually getting up to speed where you're practicing either limited or full practice with the rest of the group. So this is kind of a normal thing that usually happens when someone's coming off of a PUP list. But Coach Dan Quinn, and of course he said after practice that both him and Terry are on the same page with all this. So it wasn't just the football team deciding that, you know what, we're just going to take him off of the PUP list and we're going to force him into practicing or, coming back to the team and all that stuff. It was actually something that both the coaching staff and Terry McLaurin had talked about. This was a plan that's already been in place. So I know that after hearing the comments from Cliff Kingsbury, and this was one thing that I thought that was pretty interesting, what someone said, Dan Quinn, he has to kind of, in some form or fashion, some ways, he has to kind of give the political answer, right? He has to be as I'm not sure exactly how to put it, but he just has to not be so matter of fact, basically, in situations like this. Cliff Kingsbury, on the other hand, he doesn't have to be that way. Diplomatic, I think that's the word I'm trying to find. Diplomatic. Dan Quinn doesn't, he's a little bit more diplomatic. Oh, golly. You know what I'm saying? Diplomatic. Oh, man. But Cliff Kingsbury does not. And so, some of his comments, it was kind of interesting how after some of his comments on Friday, you wake up Saturday morning and you see this breaking news that Terry McLaurin has been taken off the PUP list. And so I don't know if what Kingsbury said had anything to do with it. From Dan Quinn's perspective, it sounds like, that has nothing to do with the reason why that they took him off of the list. But you have to feel like there was a little bit of nudging, like, if you're going to do it, you need to do it now. And so here we are. Now, of course, we're not going to see Terry McLaurin on Monday night. I think even if he got taken off the list earlier in the week and practiced and all of that, I'm not really sure if you would have seen him anyway on Monday night. I think you probably would not have seen him regardless of any of the situations going on. You probably wouldn't have seen him until game one of the regular season. But it is welcome news nonetheless. And hopefully this is leading to, I know that these are two separate things, but hopefully this is leading to some sort of contract deal sooner as opposed to later. Now, speaking of course, contracts, removing Terry, as I said, doesn't have anything to do. Removing him from the pup list doesn't have anything to do with the contract. They're both two separate things. However, we did hear of something from Twitter X, and this comes from a former NFL insider who I'm sure probably still has some connections. I mean, it's kind of hard to just have completely no connections if you ever have had some sort of inside beat. But this guy who goes by the handle of Ricky Scoops on X suggests that his sources have said that a deal gets done before the start of the season, and it's likely to be worth around $30 million a year. Now, we don't know how many years, obviously. Now, others on X who seems like they have followed this guy a little bit closer. This is the first time I've honestly have ever heard of him. But some other people have said that some of his other scoops, his other inside information had actually turned out to be pretty on par, actually pretty accurate. And so they're not really just looking at him as far as, this guy's just, throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks. What he's saying could have some legs to it. So we'll have to we'll have to kind of keep that in our back pocket and see if what he says really turns out to be true. Now, I don't think it's too far-fetched, certainly, that a deal, I would expect a deal to get done before the start of the season. I was expecting a deal to have gotten done this past week. I just kept having that gut feeling that there should be no reason why that this lingers on any further. But to say that they are expecting a deal to get done by the start of the season, I mean, honestly, that gives you another, couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks. So, I mean, there's time, if it's going to take that long. So hopefully a deal does get done before the beginning of the season. I think that would bode both parties very well. Terry McLaurin, he's got a contract done. He's extended. Now he can just focus on football. Same way with the team. Even though that they have said over and over again, this is not a distraction. We're going to, it's business as usual. You have to feel in the back of their minds that this offense works better when Terry's in there. So having said all that, I actually do believe a deal does get done. I think it could possibly get done this week, but I would be shocked if we don't see a deal done by week 1 of the regular season. Would be vehemently shocked, so to speak. So, but we've heard some rumblings. We get some nuggets here and there about this whole contract thing. And it's funny because what was rumored a few days ago kind of puts in perspective of this whole thing. Buddy Baker, who is Terry McLaurin's agent, allegedly started the negotiations with a number so high that it honestly just about sabotaged everything from the very beginning. I mean, it was so ridiculous that Adam Peters and the team just about shut the door completely, said no. That is ridiculous. And it was a rumor of around a range of $35 million to $40 million a year. And ridiculous money. And obviously that was not going to stick. And honestly, when you start stepping back and you start looking at all this, you start to figure out why Adam Peters has been such a hard negotiator in all this, right? How the reason why that he's taken the path he's taken with this, because if you're throwing this out at the very beginning, then it's almost like an insult, really. It's like, you want what? I mean, it was ridiculous. It was very ridiculous. And as much as I love Terry McLaurin, as much as I think the team needs him, that salary range per year did not reflect what we have in Terry McLaurin. And I say that with the utmost respect and love to Terry, because I love the guy. He's so awesome. But $40 million, no. I mean, not even the best wide receiver in the league has got a contract with that. So, you can kind of see the reason why that the negotiations have went the way they went. And I think there's a little bit of a lesson learned that Buddy Baker's probably going through right now, especially dealing with Adam Peters. We had, another executive who kind of came out the other day and said, there's an edge to Adam Peters and how he negotiates. That was actually, some people thought that was a complaint or, an insult, and it really wasn't. It was actually more of a compliment to Adam Peters, because, they're like, look, the guy's tough. If you're going to negotiate with him, you better bring your A game, because if you're just going to, throw something together that's ridiculous, he's going to slam the door right in your face. Now, I think that's kind of what happened in this situation, which is the reason why this contract dispute has lasted as long as it has. Honestly, in my humble opinion, my uneducated opinion, and how to run negotiations in the NFL, I really feel like Terry has had the wrong advice, had wrong people in his ears. And if I was him, I would get rid of this guy, because I think this guy has costed him precious time, preparation, and all of that. I think it's hurt the team. Now, the team won't, none of the coaching staff will, especially Dan Quinn, he's not going to come out and say that. But I feel like, in a way, it has. And it's turned players against Terry, or not players, but it's turned fans. The players have been on Terry's side, but it's turned some fans against Terry, and they start all this negative stuff. And, I just feel like this has hurt Terry more than it's helped. And honestly, if I was Terry, I'd fire that agent pronto. You get this contract signed, you get rid of him. And I think once you get this contract signed, it may be a 3-year contract. I'm assuming that's probably what Adam Peters is willing to sign. And I think that might be best for Terry as well, because if he truly wants to hang around in Washington, hopefully win a Super Bowl, 3 years, you got 2 of those years are definitely guaranteed, right? Assuming no injuries. So you got 2 years to really prove it. That 3rd year, maybe there's an extra year extension, and maybe he's kind of on a yearly basis after that, because by that point, Terry's going to be about 33 years old. But we'll probably get a little bit idea of, okay, will age actually be a factor? I mean, age is going to be a factor no matter what. Very few football players get better with age. I'm thinking of guys like John Riggins actually had probably a much better career on the other side of 30, the older side of 30. Certainly won a Super Bowl when he was over 30. Rushing championships and things like that. So, I mean, that's one guy like that. You can also say, well, Tom Brady, he never, I don't think his performance ever suffered or anything like that, even after turning 40. But, different position. Even, yeah, I mean, running back, fullback, different position as well. But I'm just saying that you don't really find, especially with wide receivers, you don't always find them to get steadily better as they get older. Usually they hit their sweet spot probably about 30, and then things kind of start to decline a little bit after that. But yeah, and I think that you'll probably wind up seeing a 3-year deal. I still think it's going to be around 28 to 30 million. It's probably going to wind up being closer to 28. And when it's all said and done, if I wind up being right on that, that was really the figure that we were looking at from the very beginning. I think a lot of us, even a few weeks ago, you go back and look at my very first videos on this whole thing, and I think I even mentioned, 3-year deal, $28 million. Maybe I said 25, I don't know. But it was on the better half of 20, right? And so I feel like at the end of the day, that's where we're going to land, and that's probably where Buddy Baker, maybe a little bit higher than that, but that's probably where he should have started. It's really, I think, I'll say this. I understand on the agent side, they're trying to get the most. They're trying to do the best thing for their clients. They want to get the most money for their clients. They want to get the most guarantees for their clients. Totally get that. But at the same time, it can be a detriment as well. It's not always about money. And when you're always thinking about the bottom line, you're ignoring everything else that could mess up that bottom line. I mean, you could get your client this mega deal, and it looks great. It looks like this guy's the highest paid player in his sport. And then when you start getting into all the details, all the loopholes and stuff, at the end of the day, when that contract is voided out for one reason or other, did that player actually get the money that looked like he was going to get at the end of the day? I would say half the time, probably more than half the time, they don't get it. And so, starting off with that dollar figure, I think nowadays it's probably better. And again, I am not an expert, but just by looking at all this, you would think that nowadays guarantees seem to be a little bit more valuable for players. I probably would not have inflated the number per year so much. Probably would have kept that within a pretty decent range, maybe on the high end of the decent range. And then, try to get more guaranteed money. Probably would have gotten a better deal than a much faster deal at that point. And I think in the long run, Terry McLaurin would be well served with that. That's why I feel like that he needs to get rid of this guy, because, I mean, he didn't do Terry any favors whatsoever. And it's actually given Terry a lot more negative press. I mean, hey, I got guys, I respect the guys who comment in the comment section, but I got some guys who are very anti Terry. I mean, they don't hate the guy, but they're just, if the team had traded Terry away, they feel like that would have been the better choice. And so, yeah, because of that, I just feel like this has not done any favors for Terry McLaurin whatsoever. So that's what I feel like is going on with all this. Let me know in the comments. I know you will, but let me know in the comments what you think about all this. I feel like we're going to land at anywhere between $28 and $30 million a year. I agree with that. It's probably going to be a 3-year deal, so it's probably not going to be a huge long contract. If it is a 4-year contract, good and well that 4th year is going to be void. So that's what I feel like, and I also feel like it's going to get done. Every week I say it's going to get done this week, but we're getting closer and closer to the end of preseason, end of training camp. So we really are getting to the point where they need to make this a priority and get it done. So I would suspect that with everything that's being said, this deal's probably going to be done by the end of this week. But we'll see. I could be wrong, but there's been a lot of people, some insiders, some just, that are around the league on a regular basis who feel like a deal's coming. And of course, again, I'm always going to trust guys like, John Keim or especially, your big heavy hitters in the NFL with Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport, guys like that. I'll listen to those guys. And if they're saying that this is coming down, then it's probably going to happen. John Keim hasn't said anything yet. He's not saying either way, but yeah, I think something's coming soon. We'll wait and see what happens. All right, folks. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like. Smash that like button. Don't just give it, smash it. And with that said, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.